The phone call came at 2:15 p.m. on Friday afternoon while I was reviewing acquisition proposals in my corner office overlooking downtown Dallas. Dad's name appeared on my phone screen, and I answered with the warm enthusiasm I always felt when hearing from family. "Hi Dad. How are you and Mom doing?" "Isabella, we need to talk." His tone was cold, formal, carrying the weight of a decision that had clearly been made without room for discussion. "Of course. What's on your mind?" "Your mother and I have been planning our 30th anniversary celebration for months. We've decided to keep it intimate, just immediate family and close friends." I smiled, already thinking about what gift would be appropriate for such a milestone. "That sounds wonderful. 30 years is such an achievement. The thing is, Isabella, we don't need you at our anniversary celebration." The words hit like a physical blow. I set down my pen and leaned back in my leather chair, looking out at the Dallas skyline while processing what I'd just heard. "I'm sorry, what?" "We don't need you there. Your mother and I have discussed this extensively, and we feel it's better if you don't attend." The rejection was stunning in its bluntness. "Dad, I don't understand. What did I do wrong?" "It's not about what you did wrong. It's about what you haven't done right." I waited for him to elaborate, but he seemed to expect me to understand his cryptic statement. "Can you help me understand what you mean?" "Isabella, you're 35 years old. Look at your siblings. Miguel has his medical practice. Carmen is a successful attorney. Both of them are married with children. They've built real lives, made real contributions to society. And I haven't? You've spent the last 10 years playing around with investment funds and hedge funds, moving money around without creating anything tangible. It's not a real career, and frankly, your mother and I are embarrassed by your choices." The dismissal of my work was breathtaking in its ignorance. For 10 years, I'd been building Rodriguez Capital Management into one of the most successful investment firms in Texas, managing over $2 billion in assets for ultra-high net worth families, institutions, and endowments. "Dad, my work is quite substantial." "Substantial to whom?" "You manage other people's money, Isabella. You don't build hospitals like Miguel or help families through legal challenges like Carmen. You shuffle papers and move numbers around on computer screens." "That's not exactly what I do." "Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're still playing with monopoly money while your siblings have built meaningful careers." The condescension in his voice was unmistakable. They had no idea that their money-shuffling daughter had quietly assembled a financial empire that included not just Rodriguez Capital Management, but also a private equity fund, a real estate investment trust, and a family office that managed generational wealth for dozens of Texas's most prominent families. "Isabella, your mother and I have been discussing this for weeks. We want our anniversary celebration to reflect the family we've built, the success we've achieved, the legacy we're creating. And I don't fit into that vision?" "Honestly, no, you don't. Your siblings will be there with their families, contributing to the next generation. You'll be there alone, still talking about investment strategies that none of us understand or care about." "I see. We've invited the Hendersons, the Castellanos, the Morales family, people who've built real businesses, made real impacts in their communities. We want to celebrate with people who understand what genuine achievement looks like." The irony was staggering. The Hendersons were clients of mine. I managed their family's trust fund worth $47 million. The Castellanos had recently asked me to structure their estate planning to minimize tax implications on their oil and gas holdings. The Morales family had been pitching me for months, hoping Rodriguez Capital would consider investing in their restaurant chain expansion. "So we don't need you at our anniversary," Dad concluded with finality. "We want to celebrate 30 years of marriage surrounded by people who represent the kind of success we value." I quietly replied, "I understand." "Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. Have a wonderful celebration, Dad." After hanging up, I sat in my office for several minutes, processing not just the rejection but the complete dismissal of everything I'd built over the past decade. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the Rodriguez Capital Management logo on the building across the street, one of several properties my company owned in Dallas's financial district. The next morning brought what I knew would be an interesting phone call. At 8:47 a.m., as I was reviewing European market reports with my morning coffee, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Charles Morrison Wealth Management. Charles was my parents' financial advisor, a competent but unimaginative planner who managed their retirement accounts, insurance policies, and the trust fund that supported their comfortable lifestyle. What Charles didn't know was that Rodriguez Capital Management had acquired his firm 6 months ago as part of a broader consolidation strategy in the wealth management space. Charles, good morning. What can I do for you? Isabella, I have some concerning news about your parents' trust fund. There seems to be some kind of administrative freeze on their account. A freeze? What kind of freeze? According to the documentation I received this morning, all distributions from the Rodriguez Family Trust have been suspended pending authorization from the primary beneficiary. I opened my laptop and pulled up the trust documents, though I already knew what they contained. Who is listed as the primary beneficiary? That's the strange part. The paperwork shows you as the primary beneficiary and sole authorization authority for all distributions. But that can't be right. Your parents have been receiving monthly distributions for 15 years. Let me look into this, Charles. Isabella, your parents are expecting their quarterly distribution next week. It's for $65,000, money they need for living expenses, property taxes, insurance premiums. I understand the urgency. Can you help resolve this? Your parents are going to be very concerned when they learn about the freeze. After hanging up with Charles, I reviewed the trust documents that my grandfather had established 30 years ago. The Rodriguez Family Trust had been created with a simple succession plan. My grandfather as original trustee, then my father, then the eldest grandchild upon reaching age 35. I had turned 35 3 months ago, automatically triggering the succession clause that made me the sole trustee with complete authorization authority over all distributions. The trust was currently valued at $3.2 million, generating enough income to support my parents' lifestyle indefinitely, as long as the trustee approved the distributions. My parents had been receiving quarterly payments of $65,000 for the past 15 years, money that covered their mortgage, insurance, property taxes, and general living expenses. They'd grown accustomed to this income, building their lifestyle around the certainty of these distributions. What they didn't realize was that their money-shuffling daughter now controlled every penny of it. At 10:23 a.m. my phone rang again. Dad's name appeared on the screen, and I could already hear the stress in his voice before he spoke. Isabella, Charles just called with some confusing information about our trust fund. What did he tell you? He said there's been some kind of administrative error and our distributions have been frozen. He mentioned your name in connection with resolving it. There's no administrative error, Dad. Then what's happening? We're expecting our quarterly payment next week. The trust succession clause activated when I turned 35. I'm now the sole trustee with authorization authority over all distributions. What does that mean? It means I control the trust fund. The silence on the phone stretched for several seconds. Isabella, this has to be some kind of mistake. It's not a mistake. Grandfather's trust documents clearly outline the succession plan. The trustee position passes to the eldest grandchild at age 35. But we've been receiving payments for 15 years. Because the previous trustees approved those payments. Now I'm the trustee. So approve our payment. We need that money for our living expenses. Dad, yesterday you told me that you don't need me. Today you're calling because you need my approval for financial support. This is different, Isabella. This is about legal obligations, not family relationships. Actually, as trustee, I have complete discretion over distributions. There are no legal obligations to continue payments. I could hear Mom in the background asking urgent questions about what was happening. Isabella, you can't be serious. That money supports our lifestyle. We have obligations, commitments, expenses that depend on those distributions. I understand that. Then approve the payment. Dad, I'm going to need some time to review the trust's purpose and determine the most appropriate use of its assets. What do you mean, appropriate use? We've been the beneficiaries for 15 years. The trust was established to support family members who demonstrate responsibility, achievement, and contribution to society. I need to evaluate whether current distributions align with those objectives. Isabella, this is blackmail. This is fiduciary responsibility. As trustee, I'm legally obligated to ensure trust assets are used appropriately. We'll contest this. We'll get lawyers. That's certainly you're right. Though I should mention that trust litigation can take years and often costs more than the assets in question. The line went quiet as Dad processed the implications. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "I want to understand why the family member who controls your financial security isn't worthy of attending your anniversary celebration." "Isabella, the anniversary is about celebrating 30 years of marriage. I thought family would be an important part of that celebration. You're manipulating us." "I'm exercising the authority that grandfather gave me when he structured this trust." Mom took the phone. "Isabella, please don't punish us financially because of a family disagreement." "Mom, I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply taking time to properly evaluate my responsibilities as trustee." "How long will this evaluation take?" "I'm not sure. These decisions require careful consideration." "We need that money, Isabella. You know we need it. I know you've become accustomed to it. Whether you need it is something I'll determine as part of my evaluation." "What can we do to resolve this quickly?" "You could start by treating me like a family member instead of an embarrassment." Over the next 2 days my phone rang constantly. Charles Morrison called 3 times with increasingly urgent questions about when distributions would resume. Dad called twice asking for updates on the evaluation process. Carmen called to express outrage about my abuse of fiduciary authority. Miguel called with a different approach. "Isabella, I understand you're hurt about the anniversary situation, but this financial freeze is creating real problems for Mom and Dad." "I'm sure it is. They're panicking about their mortgage payment, their insurance premiums, their property taxes. Those are legitimate concerns. So when will you approve their distribution?" "When I complete my evaluation of the trust's objectives and beneficiary qualifications." "What kind of evaluation?" "I need to determine whether current beneficiaries are using trust assets in ways that align with grandfather's intentions." "Which were what?" "To support family members who demonstrate responsibility, achievement and meaningful contribution to society." Miguel was quiet for a moment. "Isabella, are you saying Mom and Dad don't qualify?" "I'm saying I need to evaluate their qualifications based on the trust's stated objectives." "This is ridiculous. They're your parents. They're also people who told their daughter that her life's work is meaningless and her presence would embarrass them in front of their friends." On Wednesday morning, Charles Morrison called with genuine desperation in his voice. "Isabella, your parents are threatening to fire me if I can't resolve this trust situation. They think I've made some kind of administrative error." "Have you explained the succession clause to them?" "I've tried, but they don't want to hear about legal technicalities. They just want their money." "Charles, I have a question for you. Do you know who owns Morrison Wealth Management?" "What do you mean?" "Who owns your firm?" "We're part of a larger financial services group." "Why do you ask?" "Rodriguez Capital Management acquired your firm 6 months ago. I'm actually your ultimate boss." The silence on the phone was profound. "Isabella, I had no idea. Most of our acquired firms operate independently. But yes, you work for me. This puts me in an impossible position." "No, it clarifies your position. Your fiduciary duty is to the trust and its proper administration, not to keeping beneficiaries happy." "What should I tell your parents?" "Tell them the truth. The trust is being properly administered according to its legal documents." That afternoon, Dad called with a tone I'd never heard before, a mixture of defeat and desperation. "Isabella, we need to talk." "Of course. Your mother and I may have been hasty about the anniversary celebration." "In what way?" "We realize that family should be the most important part of any celebration." "That's a nice realization. We'd like to invite you to the anniversary party." "Dad, yesterday I was an embarrassment who would ruin your celebration. Today I'm family again." "What changed?" "We've had time to think about what's really important." "What's really important?" "Family. Supporting each other. Recognizing each other's achievements." "Including my achievements?" "Yes, including your achievements." "Which are?" Dad struggled with the words. "You've built a successful investment company." "And what does that investment company do?" "It manages money for wealthy clients." "How much money, Dad?" "I don't know the exact numbers. Rodriguez Capital Management has $2 billion under management. We employ over 300 people across Texas." We manage trust funds for 78 families, including several who will be at your anniversary party. 2 billion. 2 billion. Plus my private equity fund, my real estate investment trust, and my family office operation. Isabella, I had no idea the scope was so large. You never asked about the scope. You dismissed it as shuffling money, without understanding what I'd built. We were wrong. Were you wrong about the work or wrong about excluding me from your celebration? Both. We were wrong about both. What changed your mind? Honestly, realizing that our lifestyle depends on your approval. So this invitation is about money? No, it's about family. But the money situation helped us realize how much we've underestimated you. I see. Will you come to the anniversary party? Will you introduce me to your friends as your successful daughter, or as the person who controls your trust fund? As our successful daughter. And will you acknowledge what I've built or continue to dismiss it as meaningless? We'll acknowledge it. We'll be proud of it. Dad, I don't want your pride because you need my financial approval. I want your respect because I've earned it. You have both, Isabella. You've always had both, even when we were too blind to show it. That Saturday evening, I attended my parents' 30th anniversary celebration wearing a navy blue dress that had cost more than most people's monthly salary. The party was elegant, with family and friends gathering to celebrate 3 decades of marriage. When Dad introduced me to their guests, he did so with genuine pride. This is my daughter Isabella, who founded Rodriguez Capital Management. She's built one of the most successful investment firms in Texas. Several guests were surprised to realize I was the Rodriguez behind the firm that managed their own family trusts. During the toasts, Dad raised his glass and looked directly at me. To family, to success that comes in many forms, and to learning that the people closest to us sometimes accomplish things we're too blind to see. After the party, as the family gathered for coffee and final conversations, Mom pulled me aside. Isabella, about the trust fund. Yes. Will you continue the distributions? I will, Mom. But I've also restructured them to include annual performance reviews. Performance reviews? To ensure the money is being used in ways that align with grandfather's values: responsibility, achievement, and contribution to society. What kind of contribution? Charity work, community involvement, supporting causes that matter. The trust was meant to enable good works, not just comfortable living. We can do that. I hope so. Because now you'll need to. As I drove home that night, I realized something important about family dynamics and financial power. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving your family wrong about your failure. Sometimes it's proving them wrong about who holds the real power. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they'll learn to respect you for the right reasons, not just because they need your approval to maintain their lifestyle.